and welcome to another episode of the Candice and Elisa show. As usual, guys, if you like this episode, please like, share, subscribe. Today, we're speaking about something that's actually very controversial. We're speaking about something that is going to divide a lot of people as to where they stand and if they believe in cancellation culture. So in this regard, we're speaking about JK Rowling. So JK Rowling has been someone who has been in the headlines for not the best of reasons for the past year, I'd say, for almost all of 2020. And it comes to her stand on transgender people and her new book, which she just released, which is about a serial killer who dresses as a woman to commit his crimes. And so people are really coming out and they're very, very against JK Rowling. And there's some that are in support of her and saying she's got freedom of speech. Where does that come into the equation? But then it brings us to the age-old question, right? When someone does something and they also happen to create remarkable works of art, can you remove the artist from the works? We've seen this in history. We've seen Harvey Weinstein. We've seen it with, Michael Jackson. We've seen it with R. Kelly. Now we're looking at JK Rowling. And I want to know your view on this, Elisa. Do you think, firstly, that you can separate the two? Can you enjoy someone's art and not support the artist?
Well, I think a lot of people do. Whether it's the right thing to do or not, that is a very challenging question to answer. I mean, I think in this particular instance with JK Rowling, for me personally, we've seen films of men dressing up as women and killing women before. It takes Silence of the Lambs, which was a hugely acclaimed film, won numerous awards. But for me, what this is the timing, right? Because we are seeing right now, particularly, in the US with the current administration, LGBTQIA rights going back and forth, just like with Planned Parenthood, for example, rights that were already fought for are now being stripped. And I think that this comes at a really weird time. So for me, it would be analogous to her putting out a novel, which is about a woman falsely accusing a man of raping her in the pinnacle of the Me Too movement. It's kind of like, that's not to say it doesn't happen, but it's such a small percentage of the population. Same with this case, it's such a small percentage of people that I'm sure will abuse this notion of like, oh yeah, I'm trans, maybe they're not, maybe they're just weirdos, maybe they're perverted, maybe they just want to go into a woman's bathroom to be perverted or whatever. I'm sure that will happen, or that does happen. It's the question of someone of that caliber of following, putting this out there now. What does it say, and how damaging is it to all the trans community that's just fighting, to get a little inch forward? I just don't think it's helpful, and I don't think it's super constructive with the timing. But how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I'm really torn about this one. Firstly, because I am a huge JK Rowling fan. Like, Harry Potter was really
right.
the basis
Yes.
of
Same.
my reading. It was like I'd line up for it at midnight. It was a really huge thing for me.
Yeah.
And I still love what she created with Harry Potter. I think it is such an incredible community. And then when it comes to this issue in particular, the trans, gender issue, for me, I look at it and I don't want to say I'm in support of what JK Rowling is saying, because I'm not. I completely respect and, champion the cause of the LGBTQ plus community. However, I do think that for me, how she has been phrasing it and how she's been giving her opinions on it, I almost think that society is very quick to do cancel culture. I feel like there wasn't a real discussion, there wasn't a real back and forth interaction as to why are you saying this, right? Like, where are you coming from? Do I believe this is the right time to release the book? Absolutely not. It is something she's been working on, I think, for the past 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, but I still think the release date is wrong. And I do think she probably rushed the release date to show that, hey, I'm not transphobic, I'm not this, which I think is probably not the best thing to do when you are releasing a book about a trans killer. So it doesn't add to the conversation in that way. However, I do feel like people we have to look at the scope of this, right? I come from South Africa, and South Africa is the highest rape statistics in the world. We've also got the highest gender-based violence in the world. And so when we don't discuss the nuances of gender and sex, it does become a bit problematic in my mind, because I look at it as, let's say we pass this bill too quickly and we say, you know what, if you do not identify as a man, you are allowed to use a female bathroom. And we don't really start to police it, we don't really start to regulate it, and we don't have any measures in place for this. I can see how very realistically in South Africa that can be taken. And I mean, we've got a very large population of people that aren't really that educated, but that will be able to register the fact that, hey, we're allowed to. I don't care what it is, what it's for, what it's including, but now all of a sudden I've got much more reign to get into this person's personal space. And I mean, for me, whether I'm seeing a man, you know, of any race or culture in South Africa, and we walk into the bathroom together, already my back is up. Already I'm like, oh, is he going to take the next turn to go to the men's bathroom, or is he coming with me? And now to just, you know, put a law in place that we don't really get to say, you know, how do we do this? How do we, because it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one.
It's not like you're going to have a person at the entrance going like, please show me your ID and show me what you've been through to actually, you know, justify, right? You know, you can't monitor to that level. It's impossible. It's impossible.
You can't. And I almost feel that if people do get onto this wave of it has to be done, it has to be done, I feel like, yes, it could be done. Maybe politicians may fall into the pressure of getting it done too quickly. However, what I foresee happening should that occur is us actually going backwards, because I do see assault spiking. I do see danger occurring much more frequently in these spaces, and actually see people who are transphobic using this opportunity to spark that outrage, using this opportunity to really, you know, because it's not going to be trans people who attack you. It's going to be that person who may not believe in trans rights, right? And what they're going to do is they're going to be able to say, no, but a man did attack that woman in the bathroom because of that man must be trans. And it's like, that man is not trans. If that man is attacking a woman, he is not trans. And so I feel like the narrative shift may occur in that arena. So I don't know. For me, it's just, it blurs the lines between cancellation culture. I don't know where you stand with it, but I find cancellation culture to be very toxic, and it doesn't allow us to have conversations that move us forward.
Well, I think for me, it's also quite tough specifically on that point, because, okay, so you're telling me that we want to stop this book from going out. Okay, but we've got Netflix is full of Harvey Weinstein films. There's still tons of Roman Polanski, Woody Allen. I mean, don't get me started with the mass. You know, we have Picasso's hanging in the National Gallery, who is hugely abusive toward his wives. I'm going, where's the line, right? Because if we're going to set the line at JK Rowling is going against trans rights with this book, I'm sorry, but we have seen Harvey Weinstein was a complete asshole, you know, and abused numerous women, and yet we're still playing his films. Then you can obviously argue, well, you know, film is a collaborative effort, and so why damage all the other people, right, involved in whatever. Sure, I mean, but where's the line, right? Where's the line? I mean, Picasso made his drawing arguably by himself. Are we still going to hang that? I mean, we will, right? People are studying him. It's still in London. We have complete shows revolving around him. So it's like, it goes back to your question, right, at the beginning, is can we appreciate art separate from the artist? At the same time, in this particular instance with JK Rowling, this form of art or literature, if you will, is delivering a powerful message based on what you're saying, perhaps a warning, right? And I cannot dispute what you're saying. That's the problem, is I cannot dispute. And I mean, I grew up in Mexico, which is not too dissimilar to what you've described in South Africa. And I can see that being abused in ways that, you know, would be completely like devastating for us, right? Because, yeah, like you said, it would give it a huge, I do think abuse would spike. I do think that these kinds of incidences. And at the same time, I'm also going, okay, but what's a trans person to do, right? Because we're so, still now, bathrooms are for men and women. Even when you fill out applications, you know, there are few that actually go man, woman, other, you know, and it's the fact that you're forced to identify with something that you just do not identify with. And then your whole life, you're just fighting to be someone, to be something that's true to yourself. And you're being forced to fit into these molds. So how do we merge the two? I mean, is there a way, what do you think?
I look at this and I think to myself, you know, there's so many issues in the world right now, right? And we can't go around any of them. I mean, being a trans person, being a Black person, being, you know, a woman, all of it. There's just so many issues unfolding in the world. For me, though, what I'm starting to at least accept, even though it's a hard, bitter pill to swallow, is that not every single battle needs to be won. There needs to be a war that we are looking at and saying, what is the ultimate achievement of this war that we're fighting? What is it that really, as women, we need? You know, so for me, it would be something along the lines of, you know, equal pay. Like, that's a non-negotiable. That should be something that we already have. And the fact that we don't have it infuriates me. It's just like mind-blowing to me. The fact that a woman can also go out at night and not have to fear for her life. Is there a man? Is there danger? Is there? And most countries in the world, yes, there are much safer places than South Africa. But still, there isn't a place in the world where women can really feel like extremely safe, right? As in the way that a man could, right? So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm starting to feel as though we live in such an outrage-based culture and society that everything becomes an issue. So much so that it becomes noise. It becomes so much noise that every little thing that we pick up on, someone is mildly offensive, it becomes an issue. Someone is mildly ignorant, it becomes an issue. And so we start fighting these little battles that, yes, people win because it's like mob mentality and like, yes, we won this. Fine, JK Rowling's cancelled. Fine. Let's say that's the battle that we win. But transphobic rights do not get changed. I mean, trans rights and gay rights don't get changed. They don't actually affect policy level. Are we really winning while we're fighting these fake battles? And I may really hate me for this, but I feel like we're becoming incredibly sensitive to things that I don't necessarily feel are moving us forward in any way, shape, or form. And I'm realizing that, you know, I've always said this, but whoever controls your emotions controls your life, right? So if someone is constantly being able to trigger you for everything, your ability to think straight isn't the best it could be. Your ability to fight for what you really want isn't what it should be. And your ability to really go into policy making and really go into those sectors is not where it should be. Because if you go into a policy meeting and a bigot comes and says, F you, whatever, they use the worst slur, and you've prepared this incredible speech or whatever, and you're so shaken that by the time you get there to deliver it, you miss your shot because you're so shaken by this individual's perspective of you. And I think that's what the Trump campaign is doing very effectively. They're sparking outrage everywhere. Everyone is mad. Everyone is speaking about how terrible. Yet Trump still made it into office. Yet Trump still managed to pay $1,500 in 15 years. And no one was speaking on this because why? We focused on the little battles. Trump tweeting something like fake news and it becomes like, yeah, we're not looking at what's happening behind the curtain. He's like this magician who's performing all these tricks and he's entrancing us in rage and anger that we don't actually get to do the things behind the curtain and be like, actually, what's happening to our economy? What's happening to this? What's happening to gay rights? What's happening to Planned Parenthood? What's happening to these things? And so that's just my concern with society at the moment. Are we always so outraged that we actually never move forward in like the bigger battles? And that's where I'm finding it. And as you can see, I can go on forever. So what do you think? Am I being like a crazy person or like, I don't know.
No, I think there is a lot of noise going on. There's too much noise. And I do think that by picking battles in every direction, we're not actually pushing the ball forward in constructive ways in a unified format. But at the same time, in order to do that, we would require humanity to unify in some form, in some collective form, to actually go, you know, it's not about the JK Rowling book, it's about trans rights, and it's about what do we need to do collectively. But the problem here is that we're still having battles with people that are arguing against wearing masks because they think the pandemic is a hoax. And, you know, we've got women for Trump, you know, it's like, I just find it very difficult that these steps are going to be taken collectively, because the reality of the matter is that what we're seeing in politics right now, what we're seeing with all these leaders, is that the world is incredibly divided. Classes are very divided, and it's very easy to spark fires amongst people. And it's the historical principle of divide and conquer, right? So though I think it's a great idea, I just don't know how the implementation is going to happen. And I do think that someone with the caliber of voice, I mean, JK Rowling has made more money than the Queen, you know, for ages. And yes, Harry Potter, I mean, you were in South Africa and I was in Mexico, and we were both lining up at midnight to go watch Harry Potter and read the books and all this stuff. I mean, it was a world sensation, right? This is a woman with world reach. And I'm just going, when you have that level of power, is this the most constructive way that you can use it? And I think that question, I know that she's an author and she should be allowed to write about whatever she wants. But when you do have that reach, I think the question has to be asked, is this the best thing that I can be doing for humanity at the moment? And maybe it's just, you know, expecting too much or placing a weight on her that she doesn't have to take on. But that would be my hope, that people that have that much power are just aware of how much influence and impact. There are going to be groups that use that book as support evidence for their arguments against trans community, right? They're going to be using that because she has that much weight. It's going to be like a little Bible. So I don't know. I guess that's just my argument.
You're right. And I think for me, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking the way the world is as we sit, right? No one has any surety of anything. We're all in a very unstable place. However, the one thing I look at and I hope for as we move forward is the world is starting to crave a better sense of what a celebrity looks like, a better sense of these people that we've put on a pedestal for years and years. And that some of them are so quiet, it's eerie, right? They don't speak on anything, they don't do anything, and they just like disappear into the ether. Others use their voices so unconstructively that you could have just shut up. Like literally, you would have actually done more good by saying nothing than by saying the bullshit you just said. Okay, you know? And for me, I think it's both an exciting time and a scary time, because coming out of this, I think society is going to demand a better class of leader, a better class of celebrity, a better class of who we put on these pedestals. Because for years and years, as we've spoken about, your Harvey Weinstein, your R. Kellys, your Picassos, like all of them, we've had them on this pedestal of just because you're good at something, you have the ability for us to listen to what you have to say. And let's be honest, there are a lot of people that are good at like acting or, you know, music or whatever it is, that really don't have that much to say. And that's fine. That is perfectly fine. But I think as we move forward, as we're becoming more conscious, I'm hoping that even if someone like Paris Hilton can come out and try and rebrand herself and say, you know what, I want to use this voice. I'm tired of being I'm tired of being misconstrued in the media. I've made tons of money off it. But what I want to do now is use my voice for good. And, you know, people can say what they want about her, but she's a flippin' brilliant woman, especially when you watch like what she's created and how she's managed to con us into thinking she's a bimbo.
Yeah.
She's been outsmarting us, outwitting us, like, hey, you know, and I think it's an exciting time in that sense. I'm thinking people like your Greta Thunbergs, your Malalas, all these people are going to have your Elisas, you know, will have much bigger voices in society, and your Ellen DeGeneres and those kind of people will have much smaller voices in society. And not only will we expect it from people who are in the spotlight, but it will be something that if you are not willing to be a decent citizen, if you're not willing to, we will take firmer actions. And so that's, for me, out of all of this, that's really like my hope. I'm like, please, Lord, you know, after the fires, after everything, I really do hope that we start expecting more from people that we put on these pedestals.
Yeah, with that, I couldn't agree more. And guys, as you know, we could speak about this forever, but we do have an announcement to make, which is that this is the end of our first season. Woo! Get our back. Congratulations to us, champagne. So yeah, thank you for following the journey. If you've missed any episodes, please go back, share and like and distribute. And we will be back with a whole new season. We still don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but we'll be working on it. And we look forward to chatting with you again soon.